Since 1955, the College Board's Advanced Placement Program has been delivering excellence in education to millions of students worldwide through over 18,000 AP programs. And in each of those AP programs, an important role. Really important. And it's there we find the AP coordinator. So, what makes a good AP coordinator? Well, I believe the best AP coordinators are dedicated, motivated, and well, of course, coordinated. My name is Derek Cometa, and this is Coordinated. Thanks for joining us for a series of interviews with experienced and incredibly talented AP coordinators. This school year, more than just about any in recent history, presents some unique and unprecedented times for schools and AP programs. Perhaps there is no better time to share our collective voices and perspectives. Today, our AP coordinator journey, it takes a short detour. We're laser focusing our conversation on some timely support and training. And we have not one, but two special guests ready to help. First, we're going to take a look behind the scenes of a coordinator's best friend, the AP Coordinator's Manual. Now, this might sound crazy. I think we actually have a few little secrets to share that are both helpful and surprising. Then, we'll catch up with another great resource. Yes, we know her very well. Her expert advice and support are featured on the AP Coordinator community. We are thrilled to have AP Coordinator superstar, Cari Franz. And she's going to tackle some frequently asked questions pertinent to the start of school. So hang on tight. This is going to be a great 2-for-1 episode of Coordinated. "128 pages of deep, detailed information. Critical information just for AP coordinators. And that's only part 1 of 2. So who is actually responsible for this manual? Yes, it's a manual, the AP Coordinator's Manual, to be specific. But is it more than a manual? I'm sure our first guest today has some thoughts on that. And joining us now is my friend and colleague with unofficially the longest job title at College Board, the Senior Director of AP Program Exam Administration Information. That's quite a mouthful. Shelley Gazes. Shelley, welcome to Coordinated.
Oh, thank you, Derek. And yes, I find when I try to tell people what I do for a living, it takes a while just to spit out the title. So you're right. It is a bit of a mouthful, but thank you. It's good to be here with you.
Great. Thank you so much. And Shelley, as a former AP coordinator myself, I have to confess that I had no idea what was involved in creating the manual. It just sort of magically showed up at my school. But there's a little more that goes into the production of the manual than just magic, right?
Nah, we just snap our fingers and it's just done. But no, I mean, I'm glad it seems seamless to the outside perspective to the coordinators, but no, on our end of things, it's an incredibly involved and thorough process. We typically start work on this Part 1 manual right at the beginning of the calendar year, so that's a good 6 to 7 months before it even lands in the hands of our coordinators.
Wow. Okay, that's a really long time.
It is, and yet it somehow also manages to feel like it goes by really quickly while we're working on it. But, our process tends to start off with first just reaching out to all the various groups in the AP program and trying to identify what are the major changes for the upcoming school year, what needs to be clarified based on feedback we may have received during the year, what needs to be highlighted. And what's interesting that I think about is because the Part 1 manual is not just policy information, but also very much how to use AP registration and ordering, I've had to learn in the same way as the coordinators have had to learn, I think, all the ins and outs of using APRO and really understand it on that deep level so that I can ensure that the instructions we're writing and putting in there are clearly explaining exactly what needs to be done. So I feel like I've learned how to use the system right along with our coordinators.
And Shelley, we definitely appreciate that detail and support. It's been so helpful as we've all been learning how to use AP registration and ordering at the same time. And I think by now everyone understands that Part 1 of the Coordinator's Manual is available online as a PDF only. There's no printed version being sent to schools, and of course that made sense to me. Since many coordinators were not on campus at the start of school, and some coordinators still aren't on campus. So it's been a crazy school year.
Yeah.
So Shelley, since we have this online version, can you share something that AP coordinators might not know about the online version of the manual?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple of features specific to the PDF that are really helpful for coordinators to know about. So first, the table of contents is completely linked. So you can just click right on the section that you're hoping to go to, and it'll jump you right there in the PDF. You don't need to scroll through, or you don't even need to enter in the page number. Just click in that contents to go to that section. And I also wanted to point out, we have a section of frequently requested information at the front of the manual. And the page numbers listed next to each of those FAQs are linked as well. So if you want to find the answer to the question about the fee reduction policy, for instance, just click on that page number next to it and you'll go right there.
Great. And what's, maybe something that's in the manual right now that would help coordinators as they get started with the new school year?
Yeah, so obviously I would encourage coordinators to read the whole thing. But,
of course.
But that aside, I would say there's definitely...
if you had to focus in on something, Shelley.
Aside from reading the whole thing, it's all good content. There's definitely a couple of areas that I would highlight. So for new coordinators in particular, I would say they'll want to review the whole introductory section of the manual. That runs from pages 2 to 20. And we cover general topics like the role of the AP coordinator, learning opportunities for coordinators, which I know you know a thing or two about, Derek. And we also have our AP coordinator planning calendar, and that provides a month-by-month breakdown of key deadlines and activities. And all coordinators, whether they're new or returning, will want to review the important updates for 2020-21, and that's on pages 8 to 9.
Great. And can you talk more about that AP coordinator planning calendar for a minute?
Yeah, sure. So we've designed this calendar to be a checklist that coordinators can use to refer to throughout the year. I would definitely recommend if they want, it's a great resource to print out, tack it up on a bulletin board, just have it right at the ready. You can review it, both for the year as a whole. And then I think it would also be helpful to review it kind of ahead of each month. So, see what's going to come up for the next month.
Excellent. Shelley, is there anything else that coordinators should highlight as they start the school year?
Yeah, another area that we've heard from coordinators they find very helpful is the example fee scenarios page. So that's on page 25. And there we've listed out a couple of common scenarios, for instance, on-time exam order, a late exam order, a canceled exam, transfer students. And we've broken down to show what the student cost would be in that scenario. And as I'm sure everyone knows by now, the unused and canceled exam fee is not being applied this year. So all coordinators, I'd say even returning ones, may find it helpful to review this information again to understand exactly what the costs will be for this particular school year.
Right. I think the fact that there is a waiver on the canceled and unused exam fee this year, I think that's everyone's favorite scenario of the different exam fee scenarios. All right. So Shelley, this is coordinated. So I have to ask, is there any truth to the rumor that you coordinated your recent wedding date around the production timeline for the part two manual? Congratulations on the wedding, by the way.
Well, thank you, Derek. And yes, obviously, I coordinate all major life events around the coordinator's manual timeline, and just start there and plan around it.
And it's much appreciated. Well, Shelley, what can AP coordinators do if they have any thoughts or suggestions about the manual itself?
Sure, that's a great question. On AP Central, we have an online coordinator comment form, and that's accessible through the AP Coordinator section. We aren't able to respond directly to comments submitted to that form, but I want to assure everyone, my team behind the scenes are monitoring that form regularly throughout the year, and we, pull all the comments into a spreadsheet. We review it all ahead of kicking off the development of the manual each year to see if there are improvements we can make based on feedback from all coordinators like you. And one important detail I do want to mention about that comment form, because we cannot respond to it, we do ask the coordinators not use it to submit any questions or urgent matters. We have our great team at AP Services who are ready and willing to answer questions, and that's the best channel to make sure you get your issues addressed.
Shelley, well, I know you're super busy this time of year, so thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and I think on behalf of all AP coordinators, we really appreciate all the work you do, especially with the manual, to help support us.
Well, thank you so much, Derek. And I just want to say before I leave that having worked on this coordinator's manual now for several years and having the opportunity to meet and talk with so many coordinators at the AP annual conference and other events through the year, I understand just all the information that coordinators need to absorb. And I really understand so much better just all of the tasks that they are doing throughout the year. And most of all, I feel so honored to have seen just coordinators' commitment to your students. And I hope really that the work that my team does is able to help provide support to the coordinators in supporting their students. So I just want to say, to all the coordinators listening to this, thank you for everything that you do.
Hello, fellow AP coordinators. I'm Cari Larison.
And I'm Cari Franz.
We moderate the AP Coordinator Community, a free online platform connecting over 6,000 AP coordinators from around the world.
On the community, AP coordinators ask questions, share information and resources, and professionally connect.
We coordinators, we control how little or how much we use the community. We can receive updates daily, weekly, or as they happen. Or we can see what's being shared each time we sign in.
On the community, the discussion board is the hub of communication. It is here that coordinators post questions, share best practices, and gain valuable information to best support our AP programs.
Finally, the community is a spot to share and download successfully used resources by our fellow coordinators. Why reinvent the wheel when these valuable tools are right at our fingertips?
So how do we access this community? It's simple. Go to apcommunity.collegeboard.org to get started and request your free membership.
Again, that's apcommunity.collegeboard.org. This year more than ever, we think it's important to be part of the AP coordinator community, and together we'll figure out how to best support AP programs at our schools.
Thanks, everyone. We look forward to coordinating with you.
AP coordinators, this is a special treat. We just listened to her talking about the AP coordinator community, and now she's here with us live in our virtual recording studio. So here we go. It's time for us to meet one of the most famous AP coordinators in the world. Cari Franz, welcome to Coordinated.
Thanks so much, Derek. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Well, Cari, you are co-moderator of the AP Coordinator community.
That's correct, and I really enjoy it.
And how long have you been helping out with that?
This is my second year helping out with that. I initially became involved after being a part of the AP pilot program, which was when AP was testing the new ordering processes. I piloted both the ordering in the fall and then also using AP registration and ordering.
So what do you like about the AP Coordinator community?
I'd have to say two primary things. As a counselor, I enjoy helping others. And, I remember when I was new, the community was there for me. I also enjoy stealing ideas from other experienced coordinators in order to improve my own program.
Very good. So you have a little selfish reason there too. That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Cari, as I said earlier, you are an AP coordinator, and as we just discussed, you co-moderate the AP Coordinator community, and you are a full-time counselor with a large caseload. So I'm curious, how do you actually find the time to respond to all those questions and posts on the AP Coordinator community?
Well, I do happen to co-moderate with the absolute best, Cari Larison. She not only is extremely knowledgeable about all things AP, but she wakes up so early and answers a lot of the questions, even before I have time to do it. So it's great. But seriously, though, I make time for the community because it's so important that we get answers to everyone as quickly as possible. And as I mentioned before, selfishly, I get a lot from the community. I learn from thousands of coordinators who are a part of it. And the best part is when the coordinators begin to help each other and share their best practices to help everybody else.
Okay, so I was going to ask you about that. So on the community, it's not just you and Cari that respond to posts.
Oh, no, it's definitely not just us. Many of the coordinators contribute all the time. We actually strive for it to be a real community and not just another version of the helpline.
I've noticed you have a few coordinators who are extremely helpful when it comes to answering each other's questions and sharing best practices.
We do. I'd have to give some props to Troy from the Harker School. He has been so extremely helpful. He always shares a refreshing perspective on our challenges. I just learned so much from his posts. And Troy is actually a former AP teacher turned AP coordinator. So he offers a fresh perspective, having been involved in two roles.
Great. So how can folks join the community to engage with you and Troy and Cari, the other Cari, and all the other AP coordinators out there?
The community is free and it's really easy. So you just go to apcommunity.collegeboard.org to get started and request your membership. We'd love to have you.
Cari, do you have a couple more minutes for us? Because we have a few questions that have been coming up quite often, and I'd love to run them by you and get your coordinator expertise out there for everyone to hear.
Sure, let's do it.
All right, I was hoping you would say that. Here's our first question. Why does College Board suggest we create individual class sections for each period instead of one giant class section for all teachers and all periods?
Well, there are two reasons. One, score reports are by section. So some administrators and districts would like to have the score report data separated into that detail. But also, the second reason is with regards to the AP classroom assignments. So when teachers assign work, it will go to all students in that section. And
Cari, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to make sure I understand that correctly because I admittedly am not super familiar with AP Classroom myself. So you are saying that if a teacher assigns something in AP Classroom, it goes out to all students in the section at the same time. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so I'm thinking this could also be something to consider if one class period is ahead of another, or if there are two teachers and then, maybe one teacher wants to use different assignments than the other one. So if if the school had all the students in one giant section, that could impact the timing of when assignments are released, and then also just impact what assignments are released in the first place.
Exactly. And especially this is something to consider this year with all the bell and block schedules out there, everyone making more use of AP Classroom, and a lot of our schools are remote. So these resources like AP Classroom and AP Daily videos have been super helpful, but it's best to have them separated by section.
Okay, Cari, here's our next question. Do you suggest we allow our teachers to change students between class sections in AP registration and ordering, or should I, the AP coordinator, be the only one to do this?
So what you do as the coordinator is a school level decision. However, you know me, Derek, and I'm kind of a control freak, as are most AP coordinators. I like to keep my AP registration and ordering very tidy, and so I like to manage all these changes myself. I think it's good to be in the know, so that if any problems arise in the future, I know the thought process behind, what went into making these changes.
Cari, here's another question on a related topic. How do you know when a student has actually changed their schedule?
That's a great question, and as I mentioned before, it's really important because I like to keep my exam order accurate. So at Ridgewood, what we do is my coworkers know that if anyone needs to change their AP classes, they send the students directly to me. That way I can change their schedule in our schedule management system and switch their section or drop them from AP registration and ordering at the same time.
Excellent. And that helps to keep your AP registration and ordering nice and tidy.
Just like I like it.
Excellent. Well, we want to keep you happy. That's important.
Thank you.
Cari, we have questions about transfers.
Of course we do. As a counselor, I'm making these transfers all year long.
Okay. Well, specific to AP registration and ordering, how do we handle students transferring in to our school?
So each class section has its own unique code to transfer in. So when a student transfers in, I give them this special transfer code, not a join code. This special transfer code allows the transfer in without any late order fees after November 13th. So using this transfer code automatically waives any of those late $40 fees.
And Cari, can you give us an example of this, of maybe how this has worked at your school?
I can. Actually, I had a student who transferred in last year. I added him to our AP Psych section, but I actually forgot about the transfer code. So I noticed that he was going to be charged the late $40 fee, and I had to call AP Services for Educators to unlock it. And then I, used the transfer code and it went smoothly from there. So I learned my lesson, and in the future, always use the transfer in code.
Good. I'm glad the story has a happy ending. I'm glad to hear that.
It does.
Okay. Cari, here's a related question. Do you have to wait for the other school to transfer the student out before you can transfer them in?
No, I don't. And I think that's a common misunderstanding. But in fact, when I transfer in, it automatically transfers them out of the other school.
And speaking of transfer out, how about when you have a student who is leaving your school? How do you handle this at your school?
Well, transfer out is an action that I do on the student page of AP registration and ordering. Transfer out actually happens all the time.
Okay, can you give us another example of how this works for real?
I can. Last week, I had a student transfer out to homeschool. So again, I just went to the student page, found that student, and used the transfer out action.
And here's a logical variation of that question, or of a question, I should say, that we've heard before. Do you have to wait for the other school to do anything? Like, do you have to wait for them to transfer in before you do a transfer out?
No, I don't. And in fact, I transfer out whenever it's official on my end.
Okay, well, that is a lot of information about transfers. And I'm sort of thinking that after all that conversation, Cari, a new coordinator, they might want to check out the AP Coordinators Manual Part 1 that we talked about earlier in the show, because there's a little bit to remember there.
Yeah, and please don't feel bad if you have to check often. I mean, I still refer to the manual daily, especially to answer a lot of the well thought out questions on the community.
And Cari, one last thing about that transfer code. It's important to use, right? Because the whole point is to avoid any $40 late order fees if it's after the November 13th ordering deadline. And there's a little confusion on this because this year College Board is waiving the $40 canceled fee and the $40 unused exam fee, but
not the late order fees.
Right, not the late order fees. Cari, 2 more miscellaneous questions from coordinators.
Go for it.
All right, I was hoping you would say that. We are hearing from schools who are currently using a hybrid instruction model. So here's the question. What am I supposed to do with my class sections if all my students who are hybrid or the ones who are remote, what if they all come back to campus?
Well, that's a great question. And basically, you don't have to do anything because if you're talking about your students and your teachers, then they're already set up in AP registration and ordering as standard sections.
So standard class sections, not exam-only sections?
Correct. Not exam-only sections, since again, we're talking about your students and your teachers. Your teachers will want to use AP Classroom with their students, so it's important that they're in standard sections and not the exam-only sections.
And so if those students, let me say that again more positively. When those students come back to campus, then what?
So because they were set up as standard class sections, it really doesn't matter if the students are remote, hybrid, or in-person full-time. You'll just leave the students in those same class sections for the entire year.
And Cari, am I correct in saying that changing students between sections, that does not impact their exam order status, right? So I'm trying to think this through, and what I'm trying to say is that if a student is a yes for their exam decision in one class section, you can change section and move them to another class section, and they will still be a yes.
Correct, and there will be no impact on your exam order.
Whew. Cari, this has been a lot, but it's also been fantastic. You are such an incredible advocate for AP. There are literally thousands of coordinators out there who appreciate all that you do. I am sure you have quite the fan club. So thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm always happy to help.
Last question for you, Cari, because you do so much for everyone else. You are so unselfish with your time on the community, as an AP coordinator at your school, helping your students and parents and everybody around. So Cari Franz, what does being an AP coordinator mean to you?
So I thought about this question, and I think being an AP coordinator means that I'm a part of this mission to provide an opportunity for students to challenge themselves and also potentially earning credit for college, and also supporting all the AP teachers throughout my school who facilitate their learning. So I don't know. Basically, to me, being an AP coordinator means that I am the organizer of all AP in my building, helping students with all these wonderful opportunities.
Both our guests, Shelley and Cari, they support AP coordinators in different ways. The AP Coordinator's Manual, it provides a foundation for the role. The AP Coordinator community, it's a vehicle to ask questions and share best practices. And as someone who works closely with both our guests, I say with a genuine smile that it's a privilege to call them both colleagues and friends. As a former coordinator, I know it can sometimes feel like we are all alone on our campus, but we are not. Let me say that again. We are not alone. Colleagues like Shelley and Cari are virtually with us side by side. And with their help and guidance, this is the difference great AP coordinators combined with great AP teachers and school administration, this is the difference we can make. With their help, we know what model AP programs look like. We know what it means to be coordinated. Coming up next time, it's almost Election Day, so it seems appropriate that we visit the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Of course, balancing the budget continues to be one of many hot topics, and while this won't be an actual debate, we promise to provide some lively conversation, coordinated style. We'll be joined by Edrika Hall of Prince George's County, Maryland, to talk about all things AP coordinator, including a deeper look into AP exam fees, fee reductions, and what coordinators in her district are doing to support equity and access for both AP students and AP families. So don't miss this enriching conversation in our next episode of Coordinated. Thank you for listening to Coordinated. Our executive producer is Bill Lankenow. Special thanks to Tierra Pinto and Leslie Ladd, AP coordinator at Dulles High School, Sugar Land, Texas. Our incredible artwork is by student Amy O. She's currently enrolled in AP Art and Design at Savannah Arts Academy, Savannah, Georgia. Our fabulous theme music is Good as Gold by Jackie Ray. Jackie is a former AP Music Theory student at Oakton High School in Vienna, Virginia. Coordinated is written, recorded, designed, and produced by myself, Derek Cometa. Thanks to Jim Cluley, Terry Redican, and all my colleagues at the College Board for allowing me to connect with my favorite people in all of education. Do not miss an episode. Please leave a review and subscribe to Coordinated. Your feedback, it's really important to us. And just like an AP exam, we'd love to earn a 5. For more information on AP coordinators, visit collegeboard.org/AP coordinator training. That's one word, collegeboard.org/AP coordinator training. And AP coordinators, just like the song says, you are good as gold.
I just don't know. I'll say it over and over and over again till I believe it's so. I'm good as gold.